You know, Mark, there's often confusion around the word supply chain. People don't seem to know where it starts and where it ends. So what is a supply chain?
Well, Greta, everything that's ever been made in the world, whether toys, cars, bread, cans of cold drink, they all follow a supply chain to end in the consumer's hand. And where does it start? Effectively, a supply chain always begins with nature.
Such as the earth, like farming and mining.
Yeah, and water, lakes, sea, rivers, as well as our fauna, for example, animals for leather and food.
Not forgetting flora, like plant life and flowers for food and for medicine.
So, let's examine the supply chain sequence of an aluminium can. Every step in the process is what we refer to as a link in the supply. I will now describe the supply chain structure of the aluminium can, which can be seen on the right-hand side of your picture. The red boxes show the different levels of the supply side. The blue box is the last step in the conversion process, in other words, the final manufacturer. And the orange boxes show the demand or customer side of the supply chain. As all supply chains start on the supply side from nature, in this case, a bauxite mine. From there, the mined rock undergoes transformation through the refinery, the smelter, onto the can producer, and then to the cool drink manufacturer, who proceeds to fill the cans with their product, caps them, and makes them ready for distribution. The orange boxes take over, and the variety of levels that make up the customer base, in this case, the distributor, the wholesaler, the retailer, and finally, the consumer, you and I. Unlike iron, aluminium is corrosion resistant, so it can be remelted and reused. Thus, the empty cans can be recycled to the smelting plant. Next to the boxes there is a long orange arrow that refers to the source, which is upstream, and the end, which is downstream. These are important references in supply chain structure and will be handled in more detail later in the lesson. We will cover more details about the supply chain in this lesson.
We will then also explain what inventory is and its importance in the supply chain. Enjoy! The concept of transforming and moving products from supply to consumer has been around for many centuries. There are many changes from previous centuries to the 20th century, of course. We now have a much better understanding of supply chain management. Our challenge now is to meet today's instant gratification generation's requirements. There are major developments in the digital world, to name a few.
Knowing the history of the supply chain is interesting and informative. Understanding what changes have been made over the decades and knowing what the future holds will help a company build an effective supply chain of their own. Firstly, a company needs to understand their own supply chain maturity, because once they know which stage they're at, they can work on improvements. So, there are 4 stages of maturity. Stage 1, multiple dysfunction. Simply put, there is limited functionality in this environment. People protect their information and they don't share. There is often duplication of work, which wastes time.
Stage 2, a semi-functional enterprise. Here companies are creating a little more structure. However, there is still many manual processes and communication is still somewhat limited.
Stage 3, integrated enterprise. These companies have moved from manual systems to integrated processes. New products are introduced, the company has a handle on their inventory and understand their customers' demands. The integration is good, but it is limited to their internal supply chain processes.
Stage 4 is the extended enterprise. Here, technology is used to build collaborative relationships with supply chain partners, information is shared, and waste is reduced. There are many challenges facing supply chains. However, these can be dealt with as long as companies are willing to implement effective supply chains through focus on their people and systems. Thus, staying ahead of competitors and meeting customers' demands.